Welcome back to Purrfect Takes. I'm your host, Stephen Patton, joined as always by my co-host and dear friend, Jacob McQuire. And today we have to talk about something we did not want to talk about. We went into Sunday with the division lead. You could feel the energy just kind of like swelling up behind the team. You put it pretty bluntly in our discussion before hopping on air that the Panthers and Saints game that game was the most bet on. There was a lot riding on this, and we came out flat yet again. This seems to be like very indicative of our season, the highs and lows. What do we take away from this, Jacob? First and foremost,
uh, do the Panthers want to win? Do we want to win the division? That's what I'm taking away from it. And it's not just, all the cards were in our favor prior to this game because the Buccaneers lost to the Falcons on Thursday Night Football. It was a 15-point comeback victory at the Horn. And so everything was in our hands, but we just come out flat again. And this time it wasn't, we scored 7 points and then didn't score again like the first Saints game. We were ahead for the majority of this game but still couldn't get it done. And it's like, it seems like every other game I'm sitting here praising what Dave Canales and the coaching staff do. Like, oh, like the Rams game. We took the risks on fourth down. We got the turnovers and we needed to. But then the game before that was the 49ers game where we had 6 designed carries by our running backs. And then this game where he was more stubborn about the run, but the run wasn't working. Do you know who the leading rusher was for the Carolina Panthers on Sunday?
well, I mean, are we the yards were tied between like Rico Dowdle and Bryce Young. They both had
Sure.
49 yards. But yeah, like neither of them like broke 50. Rico
And
had 16
but
carries,
Rico
Bryce
had
Young.
16 carries to 7 scrambles, right?
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is I think a lot of our players actually played well. I thought Bryce was largely very good outside of I would say the T-Mac touchdown, which he could have led him a little bit. And there was one pass that Tommy Tremble was a bit behind him, still dropped it after getting both hands on it. Outside of that, I thought he played pretty well. I thought Chuba was good when he was in there. I thought Jalen Coker was very good. Xavier Leggett, he didn't do much, but he caught kind of a ball where Bryce got hit, and it looked like a punt by how far up it went into the sky. But Leggett came down with that. Like there were individual efforts in this game, but as a whole, the team continues to fall short. And I think you do have to go back to coaching on this one. And like I said, it's like every other game. Oh, the Panthers, we're on the right track, and then we fall flat against teams we should be beating. So I don't really understand it. I was incredibly disappointed, as you were, as most Panthers fans were. And I don't really have any large takeaways other than, is this team really ready to compete for a playoff spot?
I just don't know. And again, I've been busy earlier on this week that I haven't been able to like look down at the all 22 and see exactly what Brandon Staley did to take away T-Mac in this game. But in a sense, like you have 24 throws throughout this game and T-Mac only has 4 targets. Like that's a crime. Like when you see a guy of his talent, and I understand he's still a rookie, he's still developing. This is a guy that should be garnishing like 25% of the targets. Like this is a guy that should have gotten a few more throughout this game. And the fact that Dave Canales is not like creating him as a featured option in this offense and truly force defenses respect that, I think that is going to open up so much for your offense. And I don't see that consistently enough. Again, it goes back to your point. It's like we committed a little bit more to the run, but that wasn't successful. And again, it goes back to what we talked to a few weeks ago. We were pushing around smaller defensive lines and like the Cowboys, the Dolphins. The Saints got some big dudes, especially on the defensive end, and they're able to kind of set the edge against our offensive line. And so not having an answer for that in matchup number 2, and then you flip it around on the defensive side, and after kind of keeping the offense in check, you kind of let them do at will towards the end of the game to the point where Tyler Shuck leads the Saints on a game-winning drive, and it's just like, this is crazy. Like you choke away a 10-point lead, which, by the way, is the first time Dave Canales has lost given that he had a 10-point lead. It's interesting. John Ellis had brought up this like stat last week, and sure enough, Dave Canales decides to blow his first one on Sunday, and it's just it never ceases to amaze me how we uh, lose this year. Like it's just like stuff that like you would think would be avoidable.
Stuff that's avoidable. You look at it over, or I think it was 10 penalties for over 100 yards. Just can't have that. Obviously, excuse me, the crucial one was the, call it late hit, unnecessary roughness, whatever hit on the Tyler Shuck slide to set up a shorter field goal. The kicker probably makes the original field goal anyway. And it shouldn't have even come to that. We had 5 sacks on the day. That's the most we've had all year. That's damn near 25% of the sacks we've had all year, even after this game, and still we weren't able to close it out. I said there were individual efforts on offense outside of those sacks, and then probably Derek Brown the entire game on defense. I thought the defense was quite horrible. I think this is a reflection of what we've seen throughout Ejiro Avero's tenure as defensive coordinator. How many times, and I was talking with some buddies about this, how many times have we had to sit and watch the Panthers have a lead or have a part in the game where they're tied, essentially where they're on the defense and the other team has a chance to go tie it or win it? Over the last 2 years, how many times have we watched that soft coverage be beaten to death to where the opposing team gets a field goal attempt or a touchdown chance, right? In this game, the Saints went 95 yards in under 1 minute of game time because of the soft coverage. Diced up the defense. JC Horn gives up the touchdown at the end. Earlier in the season, like the Falcons have done it. What are some other close games? The Cowboys, the Dolphins did it. We had to have 2 game-winning drives from Bryce that game because the Dolphins walked us down each time. I'm sure I'm missing some this year. And then go back to last year. The Buccaneers did it in the close game. The Chiefs did it. The Giants did it in the game where we had to go to overtime. The only time where we actually stopped it was against the Saints last year, where it wasn't soft coverage. Mike Jackson played press man and or I don't think he got a pick, but he batted the ball away for the win. So every single time we are in high leverage situations, the coaching staff always leans on this soft coverage to not give up the big one. But if you're giving up 10 to 15 yards every play, giving up the big one doesn't matter because they're going to chunk them together to get multiple big plays. So I'll never understand why they continue, or why Coach Evero continues to trot out this soft zone coverage when the game is on the line, especially when you have probably maybe the largest slash most physical corner duo in the league between Mike Jack and JC Horn, who are both big enough to press. JC Horn, by the way, was drafted because of his frame over Surtain because he had the ability to press. Still doesn't do it. It's baffling to me that we have to watch this every single week, and in a game where you can say in other weeks, oh, we don't rush the quarterback, so we don't get pressure on the quarterback. We got pressure on Tyler Shuck this game. We got 5 sacks on him. So in a high leverage situation, you're dropping into the zone, not trying to apply pressure, and then when you do, you bring 0 blitzes, and Kellen Moore, good coach by the way, recognizes it instantly and calls screens to beat him every single time. I don't know, man. We've not been the biggest fans of Coach Evero after some losses over the past couple of years, but this to me was by far the most disappointing one. Like, no, the blowouts to me aren't as disappointing as this because our defensive players are better than their offensive players, and this still happened because of the weak coverage that the defense is being deployed in.
This is an interesting point because like you were initially kicking this off with like a question like how many times has the defense in essence called game, and we just saw it right before the bye week. Derek Brown calls game against the Los Angeles Rams.
Rushing 4, by the way, where he got pressure. It was still a soft coverage. Stafford just couldn't get it done.
I'm aware. What I'm saying is that is the only other time outside of what you're saying, like the Saints and probably a couple other games, you might be able to go back to a Falcons game that Bryce Young gritted out in like his rookie year. Regardless, you're absolutely right in saying that this is a defense that hasn't been able to get it done. And it's more just this bend don't break approach because I like for whatever reason, I think there's a analytic pull within that building where like offense is obviously more valuable and they've shown that in how they've distributed their resources. And you don't want to be a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like that is not how you want to build a team. But I think the lack of dedication to that is the reason why we've seen a lack of production. Because I think if Evero had pass rushers, then yeah, the soft shell coverage, you can kind of disguise some things and make it work. And he had that in Denver, but you come to Carolina, and the whole part of like you being a defensive minded guy is that you have to adapt based on your surroundings. Like your system isn't going to just transcend and move wherever you go. Like Sean Desai, a Vic Fangio disciple, a couple years ago was trying to deploy those kind of concepts in Philadelphia. And obviously the roster didn't like dictate him to be able to do that. But then we saw Vic Fangio come in and obviously deploy some of those like cover four, too high shell looks, and does it in a manner where they go to the Super Bowl and they win a ring. And it's those differentiating factors of knowing who's in the building and knowing how to build around them. And like you said, we have press corners. You got to be more comfortable playing man, designing simulated pressures, sending a blitzer. Like you have to adapt. And obviously, you don't have to like completely forego your identity and what you want to do in terms of like making a quarterback's life miserable. Like you don't need to be a Brian Flores, but we need to see more of that. And we haven't really seen it to the point, like you said, we get dog walked at the end of games, and it's for what? It's like you had the offense come back, put you in a situation where you could go win this, and your defense completely crumbles.
The punter penned them at the 5 yard, their own 5 yard line. They went 95 yards in under 1 minute of game time. Like you said, if there's no pass rush, it's hard, I guess, or not. I guess it
It's
is
just hard
hard
to
to.
justify like doing that. Like you have to
Right,
be able
but
to the get after the quarterback.
even in this game, we were able to do it, and it was still ineffective at the end. It's like my point is, and we're aligned here. There's very little innovation, or not innovation, but like disguises, changes in the coverage, and we don't have the personnel to sit back and do the same thing every single time. Like you said, the this year's Denver Broncos do, right? I think they're the deepest team in the league. They're able to do things like that. Seattle is able to do things like that. The Rams, for the most part, are able to. We don't have all those guys yet. We got Derek Brown, J.C. Horn when he's not playing the Saints. I think is one of those guys. He's got to quit going for interceptions. He could have covered Olave just fine, but got beat on that touchdown. That little you can call it a slant, you can call it a dagger, whatever you want to call it. He got beat, and it was certainly disappointing. So I guess my final point about the end of game defensive things or defensive discussion is when you look at the Panthers' wins since Bryce Young came back last year from the benching, all the wins are basically outside of that Saints game. The wins are if Bryce Young has the ball last, we win, is basically what it has been. Obviously, this week wasn't the case. Bryce got sacked, or yeah, he got sacked on third down. We lost that one. By the Ike Ekwonu and Taylor Moton in this game, not very good. They've been good this year, but Chase Young was dog walking Ekwonu for a lot of the game. If we don't have the ball at the end, we just lose, and that's not a sustainable way to build a winning team. It also goes back onto Dave Canales, and I think the conservative approach on offense. And it's weird to say that because you have the 4th and inches call, which you go for instead of kicking the field goal,
No, no,
which
that
I'm
was the
fine with.
most
I'm no, no,
predictable.
no.
No, 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 no. That is the most predictable play design. It's just running it up
Yeah,
the gap. And
fullback dive
but
is. I'm. Let me finish my point.
yeah.
I'm cool with going for it on that. So I like the outcome doesn't change my opinion on whether or not we should have gone for it. I think that when you see what Bryce Young was doing in the first half, he was 10 for 15 for 150 something yards, and he didn't have the touchdown, but he got the touchdown in the second half. He threw the ball like 6 times in the second half, and it was all runs. They were getting stuffed pretty much instantly. Rico Dowdle had one that was 9 yards. But other than that, it was a stuffed run, or it was Bryce Young save us, and he would scramble for a first down to keep the drive going. And then we had the one early score to Jalen Coker. Then after that, just nothing. You can't win games like that. You can't bank on having close games. And I feel like one of the key things about the Canales tenure so far is we have a clutch quarterback. You can say what you want about Bryce. He's one of the most clutch quarterbacks in the league that's able to take over games at the end and win when we need to. But in a lot of these games, we shouldn't have to get to that point. I feel like if you can continue throwing the ball and working off of that, maybe it's not a one-score game at the end, or maybe they don't have to score 13 consecutive to tie or win it. They'll have to score like 19 if we continue to push the ball. But it seems like whenever we have a comfortable lead, like you're saying, which for Canales is 10 or less, It just turns into John Fox ball, which John Fox was not a prolific scoring head coach unless the double trouble running backs were running the ball like crazy and then setting up Steve Smith on play action. And we don't have that right now. So we can't keep banking winning on 17 to 13 games or something. And it's funny, the games where we score a lot of points are, oh, we have to win the shootout. That's what happens. It's not, oh, let's put 25 on this really bad team. The one time ever that that's happened, the Falcons missed multiple field goals. Michael Penix had multiple turnovers, and we ruled the day. But that doesn't happen often because we don't have that team yet. So I think we have to be a little less conservative. And then on that fourth down call, which I'll let you get back to, maybe don't do fullback dive. I would rather you line up Bryce and try to like smush him 6 inches because he's like 1 for 1 or whatever on QB sneaks, or line up a tight end and have them do it. Sam Darnold's your prototypical size QB sneaker, and he doesn't do it. They line up a tight end to do it in Seattle. Like, how do you not have these plays ingrained in your playbook?
Okay, so I'm gonna back up a little bit, and I think exactly what you were alluding to, the mindset of like when this team knows that there's a potential shootout, they're going for kill shots. And when you're in a 4th and 1 situation, and obviously like analytics on that front are going to lean that if you run, you have a higher probability of picking up than probably if you pass. But we just saw the last time this team played hit 2 deep shots on like 4th and 2, 4th and 3 kind of situations. It's like, why are you not putting Bryce Young in the gun, spreading it out, and then just letting him go to work? And if the short option is there, great. If not, bombs away. Like, why not have that mentality? And that's where it's like to say the conservativeness of like John Fox. It's like his mantra was play defense, run the ball. And like the investments on defense, like they pay dividends. This wasn't like a bad defense that John Fox orchestrated, and then they ran the ball rather effectively. And then you had one really good wide receiver, and when everybody was healthy, it all came together, and the vision kind of played itself out. But in regards to this situation, like unless you get star pass rushers, which Nick Scordon, Princely Uman-Milan, DJ Wanham, Jadeveon Clowney over the past couple years, this year, like they haven't been like these guys that can just generate pass rush. And like it's not a knock on them, but like when you don't have that and somebody to do that for you, it's just it baffles me that you lean so hard into something that's not working over and over and over again.
Yeah, and I'm just stuck on that call, like you're saying, multiple 30 plus 35-yard plus touchdowns off of that. Even if you wanted to line them up and go 5 wide and go empty, as we alluded to earlier, Bryce Young was the most effective rusher that we had due to his scrambles. I'm sure he could have scrambled for half a yard, right? And so it's the I feel like it's hard to say it's the easy call because a fourth down is always the most impactful down, I guess. But it seems like a lot of the easy things the Panthers just don't do, and I don't understand why not, because the game was right there for us. If you convert that series, even if we don't score a touchdown, we likely get a field goal because it was on like the 23-yard line or something of the Saints. So it's a close field goal attempt if we convert that and stall out the next set of downs, which would have made the Saints try to kick to go to overtime to end the game, or even you score a touchdown, or you just do just innovate a little bit. I guess that's what I'm looking for. And when you don't have to innovate, don't like do the easy thing.
I think if the mindset going into the game is like, hey, we need to score, we need to score a lot, and just like this mindset of like our offense can't come off the field. We need to be very creative in how we're attacking the defense. Like we're not like seeing that. And like that's like I feel like if that was the mindset rather than going in like, oh, we just need to win this game and do it, like you don't need to keep it close. Like go in there and stomp them. Like
Right.
have that like the whole like initiative with like the analytics wave, like going for on fourth down or like the down 8 test of going for 2. Like everybody's like, oh, you should play for the tie. Like, no, play for the win. Like you are out here to go win a football game. Do what you need to go do that. Like go win a game and like have that mentality about it. Like, you know what? Like we're going to play this thing until the whistle blows. And like, if you have that mentality, yeah, sometimes you're going to lose some games. It's not going to be pretty. We've seen it with the Detroit Lions this year. Like they're in fourth down situations, they're unable to pick them up. And like that sucks. And like it costs them a game, but like you go for it because like the desire that your team and mentality they should have is to win. And I just don't see that with Canales and Evero. Like you look to the Chicago Bears, like Dennis Allen, he's dealing with a lot of injuries, doesn't have a lot of pieces to work with necessarily on that unit. And they're very opportunistic. It's like I would prefer to see that. Like see turnovers, see you give the offense opportunities to go do what they do best. And it's like have that mentality about how you're approaching games and it will change how many wins you pull off. And I think that's just really it.
The funniest part about this argument, we'll call it, is the Panthers actually lead the league in fourth down attempts and conversions because we attempt so many, and we're fairly good at it. But it's almost like the fourth down attempts are just to keep the drive alive instead of, oh, we need to go down and score on this one. The Rams game was an anomaly because Bryce had some perfect throws, we had some perfect routes by the receivers. But it seems like, to your point, when you know that you have to score points going into it, the Panthers are ready for that, right? The Falcons, the Cowboys, the Rams, the Dolphins, they were ready for it. But then against the teams with, we can say, lackluster offenses, it seems like that's not the game plan when it really should be. I don't know. You should treat, obviously every opponent is different, but your goal, like you're saying, should be, all right, we need to go score 31 points today. Let's get it done. But it seems like that's not the case when it comes to the Panthers. And it seems like that's not the case against the teams that you're either favored against or you have a maybe an overall lesser, I don't want to say lesser opinion because you should be respecting your opponents equally, but like a team that may not be as explosive on offense, you have that opinion. Like the Niners from a couple weeks ago, even though they're a very good offensive team, we went into it, it's like, oh, okay, we can get this done, and it just didn't work. There were turnovers in that game, but still.
I felt like that was probably Evero's best called game. And again, like I think that was also JC Horn's best game. And like you combine those factors, like that helped a bunch. But like moving forward, there is going to have to be a change. I feel like you're going to have to bring in another offensive mind somewhere along the line. It creates some form of innovation in this offense. And then from a defensive side, it's probably a new defensive coordinator. I don't think you can keep rolling out this same kind of defensive style that hasn't worked. And it's not like we're going to be in a position to add like a lot of talent to that side of the ball to where like we can shape this into the image that he's looking for. So I think it's probably time to look ahead to Tampa Bay and see if there's an ability to pull off an upset. Again, like 12 games in a row we've been favored. We can't pull it off. That's a detriment to just how we approach games and how we view ourselves in terms of preparation.
Yeah, if there's one thing, it sounds weird, that I would be excited for when we're the underdog. We're very good as the underdog this season, right? We're like 7-4 or something like that. So hopefully 7-5, I think. Hopefully we're able to get it done. And for Tampa Bay, this is a team that obviously more talented, but are on a much. It's. I don't think it's debatable that they're more talented.
They just have a
Um,
lot of injuries. I don't know if guys are fully
that
healthy. Like it's
well,
hard to weigh
that's
like
kind of the how I was kind of gearing it. Their offense really didn't get back into swing, but got a lot of their pieces back in that Thursday night game, which they scored. They scored 28 points. They had a 2 touchdown lead for a while, but I think that Baker Mayfield's a little injured. I think he's also playing quite poorly, or to his standard, over the past month/month and a half. And the Buccaneers, who started 6-2, are now tied with the Panthers at 7-7. They've been on quite the losing streak. They had one game in there that they barely beat the Cardinals, and so they are certainly vulnerable. However, I think with getting all of their people back, getting an extra 3 or 4 days because they played on Thursday to prepare for this game, it's certainly going to be a tough test for the Panthers.
where we talked about the Panthers defense generating 5 sacks. You want to kind of see that kind of performance, and I want to see this defense attack Baker because I think if you can speed up his clock and force him to rush with the injury he's dealing with, and we saw this back when he was with Cleveland, he was not the same player after he got hurt. And I think being a smaller player and playing through an injury, it diminishes the value you can bring to the football field. And it's not to say that Baker Mayfield isn't a starting caliber quarterback, even when hurt. It's just he went from like a top 10 quarterback, and then with this injury, it's like you're below average. And so I think if you can speed up his clock on defense, maybe force him into some mistakes, that's how they've lost over the past couple of weeks. It's just getting them into some un like un unfortunate circumstances that they wouldn't want to be in, and you capitalize off those mistakes. So I think if you do that on defense, and then on offense, this is a defense you can attack in the middle of the field. So I want to see Bryce Young targeting Coker, T Mac across the middle, maybe finding a tight end on a few seam balls. I want to see some creativity maybe in the screen game. It's been cool to see some of the layers Dave Canales has done on that over the past couple of weeks, I will say, but it's stuff like that I want to see compounded to the point where I don't think have to necessarily lean into the run game, especially with I think Vita Vea still is he healthy, or is it Kalijah? I feel like one of them's been
It
banged
was
up this year.
Kalijah Cansey, I believe, is out for the
Yeah.
season. Pretty early on in the it was like week 3 or
Yeah,
something.
but
I think he
is
got
Vey
hurt.
been like dealing with something, or is he, because I was hearing something.
I believe he's
Maybe it
been
was
back.
just maybe it was just the touchdown he had a few weeks ago or so. No, it was against the or no, he was playing fullback against the Falcons. I don't know. I don't know. I felt like I heard something about Vita Vea. Regardless, he's a guy that can take two blockers and impact the run game. So leaning away from the run game and allowing Bryce Young to go to work, I think you can do that. I mean, we just saw Kirk Cousins torch torch the Buccaneers defense with Kyle
With
Pitts.
no Drake London.
Yeah, and so that's where it's just like use Jalen Coker and T Mac in that way, like get them into the slot, get them in line to where it's like they're coming off the ball and they're working the middle of the field. And if you do that with some of these quick releases, it kind of mitigates Todd Bowles' blitzes. And so I think again that's where you want to kind of go as an offense. Whether or not they accomplish that, we'll see. Obviously, we played them really well last year in Charlotte, and I'm expecting the same thing. This is when you come off a disappointing loss, usually the rebound is that we come back and win. So I am definitely hopeful for this week, more so than last week. And I definitely think we can get the job done because, again, this is a banged up Bucs team that has been on the down. Like, I think they're 2-6 over their last 8 games. Or no, yeah, 2-6. I think so. Because the
Yeah,
Panthers
they're
going
one
into
and five
Sunday
over
were
their
six
last
and two.
6. Yeah,
So it's one of those situations where they're not winning right now, and I think if we can beat them, especially after taking kind of the belt by them last year, I think that's the direction you want to head. You want to get that moral victory heading into week 17.
for sure. It's not like we're out of the playoffs yet. We can still make it if we beat Tampa Bay twice. We're just straight up in. If we split it, we're gonna need some help from Miami, and we'll have to beat the Seahawks. But this week, you started about the offense. Baker Mayfield is a guy you can get pressure on. I know he can create, or he was able to create a lot earlier in the season. He took 5 sacks this past week from Atlanta, and their pass rush is much better. But we were also able to generate some against the Saints, so maybe that's a direction you can lean in. Hopefully, get a lot of people involved. And then when we're attacking the defense, you brought up going over the middle of the field. The Buccaneers have the same problem that the Rams did against us. Their corners are very little compared to our receivers, who are 6'5", 6'4", 6'3", and most of them are above 200 pounds. I think you're going to have a lot of one-on-one advantages there that you can get the ball to the receivers. And you probably are going to have to go away from the run game, and we'll probably have to see Bryce Young have like 35 to 40 dropback. That's not ideal, but I think that is going to be the type of game that's played in this game.
Well, if
And
you're gonna
hopefully we
run, you got to lean in the Rico outside run game. Like if they start
right.
running the AB gaps, we're done. We're done.
Yeah, you can't stare Vita Vea in the face and still be like ram your head into the wall. Like I know you can be stubborn about the run, but that doesn't mean running up the middle every play. There are creative ways to call the run game. And if there's one piece of good news, it's that the Panthers, ever since beating the Jets, have alternated wins and losses every single week, right? Up until this past week, we had obviously beaten the Rams. We had our bye week. We lose to the Saints. So if the trend continues, this would be the week we win. We might lose against Seattle, then we might win again in Tampa for the division. Hopefully we win all three, and there's just no question about it. But I think this is going to be a real testament to not only the state of the Panthers, the players on the field, but the coaching staff. Are we ready to be considered? And our division sucks, right? There's no way around it. But are we ready to be considered a team that can win the games that are the big games and make it to the playoffs? This is a huge game for that. I don't. Well, it's obviously must win in order to keep the season alive, but I think it's also a must win game in that department, similar to how the Jets was a must win for the road win, how the I don't want to call the Rams a must win, but it was a huge legacy game for the staff. I think this is a must win to establish that we are a serious team in the division, because while you sweep the Falcons, who stink this year, you get swept by the Saints, who might stink even more.
I think you should just end up sweeping the Bucs. I think that's the goal here.
I
That's
hope so.
the road to the NFC South title. And I think as you're seeing this team fall off, it reminds me a lot of the 2008 year where the Buccaneers kind of stormed out. They had a good season. It was I believe it was and I'm saying John Lynch because he was their safety, but it was John Gruden, their head coach. Later in the year, we meet them, we run all over them, and again, this goes against what we're talking about in terms of game plan for that team. But it was after that game they completely unraveled. They lost to the Jamarcus Russell Raiders at the end of the year, where if they had just beaten them, they would have gotten into the playoffs. Like completely unraveled, and it seems like that's what's going on in Tampa Bay right now. And so I think Todd Bowles is on the out. You're going to have to find out if Baker Mayfield can get back to 100% this offseason, and then see what pieces you're working with. Like, are Mike Evans, Chris Godwin really viable pieces moving forward? On defense, do you have kind of the pieces in place to revitalize something down there? Because like after that 2008 run with John Gruden, the Buccaneers kind of fell into irrelevancy, and it will be very interesting to see if they're able to avoid that, because it does seem like they're time atop the NFC South is starting to come to a head. And I think at this turning point and juncture, the Panthers, like you said earlier, if they really want to win, if they really want this is the time to do it.
I think even last year you started to see. I'll say if Kirk Cousins doesn't get injured last year, I think there's a very good chance the Falcons win the division. It came down to week 18, even still last year. We obviously beat the Falcons, and the Bucs beat the Saints, but it was the last game of the season was for the division, and hopefully we're the team that breaks through this year. I think we're into takes territory, and one of the more interesting wrinkles about the Panthers and the Bucs, besides all the playoff stuff, the division stuff, is that I think the Panthers and Bucs have the two leaders, probable leaders for the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. If Jackson Dart had won more games, maybe he would be up there. I think it's too late for Tyler Shuck. Shador Sanders has to win out for probably to be considered. But I think it's down to Tetero McMillan and Emeka Egbuka, who essentially have identical stat lines. T-Mac has like two more catches and Egbuka has like 10 more yards. But other than that, they are same amount of touchdowns. They're both hovering around 900 yards, both just under 60 catches. And I think that T-Mac is going to outproduce Egbuka in this game, whether that's more touchdowns, more yards. I think he'll win, let's say, two of the three touchdowns, yards, receptions categories in this game. I think he's going to outproduce Egbuka heavily, not only because Egbuka has to contend with Mike Evans and Godwin for touches now, but I think to your point, Dave Canales is going to have to get McMillan more involved, because he only had 4 targets in the Saints game. Go back 3 weeks ago now, he only had 2 in the Rams game. Obviously, he caught one for a touchdown, but McMillan's kind of being shut out, shut down, whatever you want to say. Got to get him more involved.
Absolutely. He's got to be fed more. And that's where I was talking earlier. It's like you got to find ways to just feed him the ball and make him the read and just force feed him, because he is just that good. And unfortunately, Emeka Egbuka, and it was a lot of your fantasy nerds who like were like, oh yeah, I knew he was wide receiver one, blah blah blah, this that the third. And he's a good wide receiver. There's a reason why Buka was taken in the first round, but to think that he is on T Max level is just it's a discredit because a lot of Igbuka's stacks for the most part came when he had Mike Evans on the other side. There were a few games he went off without Mike Evans, but those weren't as common where when you look at T-Mac, he's opening up things for other wide receivers on the field. He's a guy that can go up and do things that not a lot of wide receivers can. And so I agree with you on that front that I think T-Mac will outperform and outproduce Emeka Buka. My take for this game, I think both I think this is a game where both teams score over 25. Like this has that feeling of like the Arizona Cardinals game last year. And I don't think it necessarily goes to OT. Obviously, that game and the Bucs game at home went to overtime. But this is a going to be a high scoring affair. And I think it's a reflection of where the defenses are at right now. And I think it's just going to come down to what you were talking about earlier, like who has the ball last. Like if Bryce Young ends up with it, then we probably walk away with a win. But if not, then we probably kind of, I wouldn't say kick ourselves in the butt, but like, I mean, you dropped a perfect opportunity to seize the division. So I don't know what your thoughts are as we're wrapping up, but I like where we're heading with our takes.
I hope it doesn't go into overtime because I'm getting flashbacks of the Chuba Hubbard fumble in that one. That was the only overtime game we lost last year. I think we were three. I think we won three other ones outside of that one. The Giants in Munich, the Cardinals game, and then obviously Atlanta to end the season. So yeah, that would have been our only overtime loss. And then this year, I feel like we've gone to overtime once or twice, and I think we've won both of those. So hopefully we don't go to overtime. Hopefully we just blow them out of the stadium and take care of business. But I think it will be a close, high scoring game. We got to have that mentality that we talked about at the start that the Panthers seem to latch on to teams that can score a lot and it makes them want to score a lot. Just maybe we just post a sticky note in Dave Canales' office that says, look, the Bucs will score 40. Do something about it. So maybe that'll get the offensive play calling juices going. But I feel better about this game than I did the Saints just because the fact like the Panthers are gonna blow the easy win factor, but I still think it's gonna be a contested game. So hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully the every other week trend continues and we get the win this week. But we'll have to see. We'll be back next Tuesday, hopefully to discuss a new win. The last thing I'll say is it's interesting that our path to the playoffs, the last three games, are against Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, and then Baker again. I think we mentioned it, I don't know, a month ago when the playoff talk first started. You got to exercise the demons in order to make it to the big dance. And I guess two of them stand in your way three times. So hopefully we can get it done. And then next Tuesday, we'll be back to talk about the result. You can find us on all the socials: Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And until then, keep pounding.